going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of recap and results for UFC 279. Diaz versus Ferguson, the new main event made about 30 hours prior to the pay-per-view. A crazy day on Friday. I've seen maybe 3 or 4 events canceled, in the past 10 years from the UFC, but no sort of craziness like this, where all of the 3 remaining fights, all 6 fighters, forced to accommodate one fighter and get new matchups. It was a pretty insane day of news coming out every hour of what was going to happen. 3 of my bets got voided. Of course, the Khamzat Chimaev knockout, the Diaz Chimaev under, and the Kevin Holland money line were all voided. And people were asking me about my picks, and I gave out picks for the the final 3 fights of the night. I had Li Jingliang, I had Ferguson, and I had Chimaev, as those picks. No bets on that one. I was not going to, not only recommend a bet, but place my own hard-earned money on fights that were just made like 24 hours prior to the fight starting. I wanted none of that. Not only did I not have time to research it properly, but, these guys have not even prepared for the opponents that they were faced against, so no confidence there betting-wise. But still, the win streak continues now. 6 UFC events in a row have been profitable, 1.2 units on last night. Not bad, I would have loved more. I went 3-2 on the money lines, 1-1 on the props, and the one prop parlay that I had a fight doesn't go to decision for Jailton Almeida and Johnny Walker came through. So up 1.2 units. Cannot complain with that one for a dicey card where I went 7-6 on predictions. That's not great for my picks, honestly. I could do a lot better than that. Last week I went like 10-2 or something. So, when you've got Chris Barnett coming in there, pulling off the impossible upset and getting a second win in the octagon, never saw that coming. So that was one of the picks I got wrong. We'll start with the first money line of the night. One of the 2 close fights of the night. You had Johan Lainez and Darian Weeks. Li Jingliang and D-Rod were very close split decisions. We'll get into all of that. But Johan Lainez, in the moment, I thought he lost the fight. Rewatching it this morning, round 3 was arguable. He got round 1 for Lainez, he got round 2 for Weeks. Round 3, not much happened. Both guys were tired. You had Weeks with the better striking. You had Lainez actually getting the better of the grappling in a lot of spots there. He had 2 guillotine attempts, which are effective grappling to try to end the fight. In a close fight, that pays dividends. He stuffed some takedowns, got some top control position time, and it was a dicey one. That was one that was very subjective. 2 out of 3 judges called it for Lainez. We get 1.1 units on that. Not a great performance from either guy for sure. Healy Alatang, complete contrast to that first fight, right? Healy Alatang, amazing performance, outclassed Chad and Hellinger in the striking, no grappling needed. I didn't see that coming. I thought he would be the better striker, but I thought he would absorb more strikes than he actually did. He was fairly untouched in that fight and covered his money line and then some. Minus 160 was a steal of a price on Healy Alatang. I got 1 unit on that for the second money line of the night. Now this is where things took a turn. Jamie Pickett, who I was actually joking that I even put money on him all week long, but I thought he'd just be more physically imposing and have the better gas tank than Tallulah here. And Tallulah, I thought, was this guy who was going to gas out very early. His chance would be in round 1. He got the job done over Jamie Pickett in round 2, and Pickett showed he was not going to use the body lock takedown I thought he would, not using the heavy clinch to wear down Tallulah, not using his reach to maintain distance, and he showed horrible durability. So Jamie Pickett, I should have known better than to bet him. In hindsight, I still would not have put my money on Tallulah just because of how he looked in his debut on short notice. But I should not have put my money on Pickett. That's not a guy I was ever thought I'd put money on. I said that before the fight even happened. But I thought, he had all of the intangibles to win this fight. A clear game plan he would go to. He did not go for that game plan. So minus 1.5 units on that at minus 130 money line. Hakeem Dawodu, another guy that let me down. The biggest money line bet of the night, minus 211 on the money line. I paid 2.11 units that I lost on Dawodu against Juicy J, Julian Erosa, who's such a hot and cold fighter. Erosa comes through as an underdog a lot. He'll beat guys that he shouldn't beat, and then he'll have a close fight with Steven Peterson, and now come right back against Hakeem Dawodu, who I think is a way better fighter. Now, Hakeem did come in like 3.5 pounds overweight, but he got outstruck, he got out-controlled in the ground, just lost pretty much every second of that fight, and lost me 2.11 units on that. Great performance from Juicy J, though. So after that, I just had one money line left. I did have the under 1.5 in the Jailton Almeida Anton Turkalj fight, which I hate playing under 1.5s, but both guys' resumes just pointed to it without a doubt. And Jailton Almeida did Jailton Almeida things, got that sub early in the fight, clearing that minus 1.5 rounds, and got a unit on that. Johnny Walker flipped the script on me. I called the Johnny Walker round 1 KO at plus 650 at 0.2 units, and he lost me those 0.2 units, getting a round 1 submission halfway through the first round. I thought that would be a possibility, but against Ian Cutelaba, you would assume that Cutelaba would start working the grappling a lot better than he did and control the entirety of that sequence. But no, I mean, Walker was able to get back to his feet, capitalize on some botched positions of Ian Cutelaba, and get that choke. So I love to see Johnny Walker get that comeback and get an early round 1 win. I should have just gotten the round 1 prop, not gotten greedy with it, but, hindsight's 2020. What are you going to do? Lost that 0.5 units, and then it all came down. I was pretty much, if you do the math, even at that point. Irene Aldana against Macy Chiasson was going to be the deciding factor if it was going to be a win or lose night. So Irene Aldana versus Macy Chiasson. I had 2 units on Aldana at minus 160. I figured she would be the better striker by far, which she was. And I figured she'd be strong enough to avoid being put on her back and dominated on the ground. That I was not so correct on. She won round 1. Round 2, she almost got stopped. Macy Chiasson able to get on top, almost get armbarred in a couple spots by Aldana, but then, weird scrambles in the ground. The much bigger, heavier looking physique of Macy Chiasson gets on top of Aldana, gets in mount and side control, starts raining down vicious elbows and punches. The ref almost stops it because Aldana is not blocking any of those shots. She's just kind of moving around just enough to stay in the fight. And round 3, it was all going to come down to the wire of who won round 3. Win or lose night, all on this sketchy women's fight that it turned out to be. And Aldana ends up on her back and gets a crazy up kick to the liver of Macy Chiasson, ends the fight by round 3 TKO. I've never seen anything like that watching fights. I've seen a lot of crazy up kick finishes across various leagues. Probably the craziest was Anderson Silva against Yushin Okami back at Rumble on the Rock way back in the day, pre-UFC for Anderson Silva. That was a crazy one where he got DQ'd and lost the fight from knocking out Okami with that up kick. And then actually, it was illegal to throw, like if you were in bottom on your back and in guard, it was actually illegal to hook the heel and throw those hooking kicks to their kidneys of your opponent. That was illegal until just about 6 years ago. Now all you have to do is just avoid the spine from that position. But this was an entirely different one where a standing opponent got up kicked to the liver and just swiftly, crumpled. I mean, that was a crazy one. Even Aldana was confused as to what happened until she saw the replay. So, hey, plus 1.25 units on that. Cashing me, 1.2 units of profit for the night. So a crazy way to keep this win streak alive, but I'll take it. Thank you, Irene Aldana. So then I was able to watch the final 3 fights, stress-free, no betting action, and they were okay. I like the Chimaev destruction of Kevin Holland. I mean, imagine what he would have done to Nate Diaz if that fight would have happened. It would have been murder. So I liked seeing that. Diaz and Ferguson in the main event. I mean, honestly, I think the Barnett-Collier fight was a more technical display of mixed martial arts than that main event between those 2 old bums. But cool to see Nate Diaz go out with a submission win. It was that Li Jingliang Daniel Rodriguez fight that was the talk of Twitter, the talk of robbery on the part of D-Rod. And it was a split decision win for Rodriguez. Rewatching this fight, when I saw it live, the round 1, I didn't even know how to score that fight watching it live. Round 2, I scored for Li Jingliang. Round 3, I scored for D-Rod. So I wasn't really too surprised that it was a split decision win for Daniel Rodriguez. And this was a really good spot to not just cry robbery, but go back, rewatch the fight carefully, and reread the rules of the unified rules of mixed martial arts as they stand. And it's a very close fight because, the first priority judging a fight in MMA is effective striking and grappling. There was no grappling to be had in this fight. One minor takedown of a caught kick, 2 seconds left on round 2, didn't really count as grappling. So you're just looking at effective striking, and you're looking at a fairly close one, right? Effective striking is legal blows that have effective, immediate or cumulative damage. So it could be immediate, you're supposed to weigh that first. cumulative second if there was no immediate damage done in the round. So that's why it's going to be a kind of a battle between does the judge look at the more powerful looking counter strikes, the counter cross, the counter left hook of Li Jingliang, or does it look at like the dozens of jabs effectively that Daniel Rodriguez had? You're judging cumulative damage of jabs versus the immediate damage of a counter right cross or something like that. And that includes visual damage, lacerations, bruising, swelling, of which there was really none to be had in either guy here. And damage also includes diminishing the fighter's ability or will to continue the contest. It also, these are written in the documents, it includes diminishing the opponent's energy. Didn't see any of that. Confidence, how do you judge that? Couldn't really see that much. Ability or spirit. So these are all very subjective things, and it's a hierarchy of priorities when you're judging the effective striking of a fight. It can get really greasy when the fight looked the way it did. So then you would move on to effective aggressiveness. A lot of that was on the part of Daniel Rodriguez. He was kind of dictating the pace and pressure of the fight, especially round one. You had Daniel Rodriguez for the first 4 minutes of the fight, moving Li Jingliang on his back foot, holding center, Li Jingliang behind that black line of the inner octagon. His back was to the cage. Looked very aggressive to me on the part of D-Rod when it gets down to it. I mean, these are things that you're only judging as a judge if you're sure that 100% equal on both sides of the effective striking, which it looked like to me. So, you can get fooled by looking at the significant strike counts. When I rewatched that and counted it myself today, I saw a lot of those that were counted as significant strikes for Li Jingliang blocked by D-Rod. Very hard if you're not in person to see some of these things. But instead of just crying robbery, and this is coming from me, I had no money on this one. I was rooting for Li Jingliang. I picked him to win. Completely neutral opinion of this fight, but you can look and see how dicey this is when you go back and look at the actual documents from the Association of Boxing and Combative Sports. You look at the documents, it can get really greasy and subjective when you're looking at these fights where one guy's moving backwards, one guy's moving forwards, and that's really the only clear difference of damage in the fight. But anyways, you guys, the 6 UFC event win streak continues. Hope you guys enjoyed the fights like I did. I thought it was a great night of fights, and the craziness of the pre-fight week only added to the excitement. So, no cigar. I'm not even celebrating this 1.2 unit victory. I'm going right back to the research right now to get the full card breakdown out as soon as possible for Sandhagen versus Song Yadong in the next week's fight. So after that, I believe we do have a off week, and then we'll be right back to Dern versus Yan Xiaonan. So let's keep this profit streak going, guys, and try to have a good result next week. There are a ton of fights next week to get through, so I'm going to work hard on that. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave a comment on what you thought your favorite moment of last night's fights were. My favorite was seeing Chris Barnett get that victory. That was pretty cool. All right, you guys. Talk to you guys next time. Cheers.